Hey, everybody, we're back. It's another episode of Exceptional Relationships. I'm here with my fabulous co host, Ronique Clark. I'm Jason Stafford, founder of Exceptional Results Now, and Ronique is our incredible exceptional relationships coach.
Hi.
And how are you doing today?
I'm fine.
You're
Apart,
fine?
I am fine apart from seeing an eyesore in my living room and want to throw it out.
And that brings up today's topic, which is when is it time to move on? And
But
let's start with
exactly.
the eyesores in our living room. When is it time to move on and let go of our furnishings and furniture?
When you're seeing something right in front of you that you see that it has done its job, it has served this purpose for a specific amount of time, and you just see it and you see that it's already been used and worn and exhausted. And when you keep on trying to hold on to it like a little hoarder,
And we don't like
it
hoarders.
just turns into something. It turns into something that isn't very. It isn't conducive to having a healthy environment. So you have to look at that and say, you know what, it's time to throw it out.
So I agree with you, and I hear what you're saying. And sometimes it's really about you have to, in your own mind, come to a place where you can move on from some things because you tend to like things that you've gotten used to, and there's also the sentimental value to it.
Yeah.
Now let's explore it from the standpoint of relationships, and I want to go into a past episode in which we talked about give and take.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a balance in every relationship of give and take,
Yeah.
but when things just aren't working, how do
Mm-hmm.
you know when it's time to move on?
Usually, it will come to a point when the writing is on the wall. And when you get to that point where you emotionally check out and you feel as if you can no longer dedicate certain kind of effort and certain kind of time into something or somebody, and you find yourself naturally stepping back, that's the time. That's the time. And I know it works a lot different for men than it does for women, because usually what they always say, women, we we check out of relationships about a good 2 months before we physically check out of relationships. Because when we decide that we're done in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
We're done in our minds first. And you have to look at it in a way that when a woman throws a man out of her household, it's usually when she does it in the impulse of the moment. You know that scene where the woman will just start throwing things everywhere and just throwing stuff out
Mm-hmm.
in a fit of anger or a fit of disappointment or rage. Usually that man is gonna end up coming back. But you see, when she neatly folds your clothes, when she neatly folds your clothes and put them very neatly in a corner of the house, and put them neatly in boxes and carefully arrange every she carefully arranges everything, that's when she's done. That's when she definitely has moved on, mentally as well as physically. So yeah, those are the things you have to look for when within yourself.
And in thinking about that, I go back to the givers and takers, episode where we talk about that, a taker can stay in a relationship as long as you're willing to give them something.
That's true.
But at a certain point, they're even going to recognize that you just can't give them anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, or it's just not new and exciting anymore. It's just boring.
Yeah,
So even for a taker, there's a point where it's time to move on.
that's true.
And the problem that I, suspect is that your statement of when the writing is on the wall is that some people can't read.
That's true.
So the
That's
writing
very
might
true.
already be on the wall, but they can't read. So what do you do if somebody's dyslexic or illiterate and just isn't getting it?
You're gonna have to ruffle a lot of feathers.
So you start singing in a high pitched voice and
Oh yes.
okay.
In the proverbial sense, yes. But
Okay.
you have to, at some point, you have to make your feelings known, and you have to have that discussion and really let it all out there and say, like, this is not working.
Mm-hmm.
We have come to the end of this, and I need to move on to the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
or to the next end of our next relationship, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, at some point you're gonna have to sing like a canary when people can't read.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Is and it brings up I know why the cage birds sing, because some people stay in relationships and they're just singing even though the writing is on the wall.
That's
Um,
true.
so so that brings up the idea, and I'm going to use the word manipulation. Is that um, how do you recognize when somebody knows that the writing is on the wall, but they continue to use manipulation to try and keep things status quo, even though it's a more and more toxic situation?
Usually from what I have seen, they ignore it
Okay.
and just go ahead with things as if it's normal and nothing is wrong.
Right, right.
That's
Kind of like
that's
the US economy, right?
yeah.
Sorry, that was a bad that was a bad connection.
Yeah, yeah. Let us play. Oh, let's not pay attention to. Let's pay attention to this other. Let's. So you have a big pink elephant in the room,
Right. A big pink
and
elephant in the room. I like that.
there's a
Okay, I
big
got a
pink elephant
visual.
in the room, and they're gonna say, "Oh, let's ignore the pink elephant. Let's look at this painting. Let's look
That's
at this
right.
painting on the
Look at this
wall."
blue horse over here. It's much more pretty than the big pink
Yes,
elephant.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep, that's usually how it goes. They will come around, They will come
Hmm.
around, and when they see the writing on the wall. But
Hmm.
guess what? They don't want to disrupt anything because there's something that is in it for them.
Hmm.
So what will happen is they're going to ignore the elephant, the pink elephant in the room, and then deflect and try to distract you by turning your attention to something else.
Yeah.
So you're not paying attention to what you're really trying to pay attention to.
And I would also like to point out that, outside of a hoarder and a hoarder obviously is a mental health issue,
Mm-hmm.
but outside of that, what we're also talking about is people's acceptance of toxicity in their own life, their own spirit, their own bloodstream. I mean, there are some people that can deny a problem or a reality that, and this is where I think a lot of relationships suffer,
Mm-hmm.
because rather than recognizing that the other person is actually trying to make the relationship work,
Mm-hmm.
they continue to allow the toxicity to build, and the
Yep.
other person will then check out and they're
Yep.
ready to move on. They're saying it's time to move on, and the other person isn't ready to move on yet because they
Mm-hmm.
still haven't accepted within themselves, their spirit, their body, whatever it is, that yeah, this is no longer productive, conducive, valuable, whatever. It's just completely unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are willing to live with that unhealthy state more than
Mm-hmm.
others.
Yep. And usually it's because there is something in it for them. They're getting something out of it. So usually people are not going to put themselves through that kind of stress and ang- that kind of angst if there isn't something that is benefiting them.
I want to throw a curveball at you, and this gets into the intimate challenge, in business and in personal relationships. We
Mm-hmm.
look at the fact that it really is about you and your mindset and really where you're coming from. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the differences between business and intimate relationships is that it goes into the person you are behind closed doors.
That's true.
And in intimate relationships, we know that there are different types of personalities,
Yeah.
different types of characteristics in a person,
Mm-hmm.
and there are also different types of behaviors. And one of the behaviors is somebody that um, can easily detach themselves because of their own personal issues in the past. And they can be
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship, but they could very quickly leave a relationship because they're avoidant of people getting close to them in emotions because they don't want that feeling of heartbreak.
That's true.
Now, when you look at someone that has a detached avoidant style
Mm-hmm.
of being in a relationship, they can move on very quickly on the surface from the
That's
relationship.
true. Mm-hmm.
But underneath the surface, they suffer more than everybody else.
That's true.
And so, one of the things that I think is really important for us to examine in terms of when is it time to move on is that there are some people that move on whether it's time or not. They'll just
That's true.
suffer with
Yeah.
all of the emotional trauma and the heartbreak, and they'll bring it to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
But the healthy way to do it is, as you discussed before, the power that, and it may be a difference between men and women until it's learned, but the
Mm-hmm.
power of being able to change your mindset to say, okay, I have explored every way to try and make this relationship work.
Mm-hmm.
Not working. The writing is on the wall. If the other person's not reading it, I'm reading it. And so not only
Yeah.
have I checked out, but now I'm going to physically start packing things up and moving on,
Yeah.
which is a healthy way, exactly as you said, versus the emotional response, which is to tear everything up, have a fit, and you
Yep.
haven't really moved on. You've simply
Ah,
created
exactly.
a signal to the other person, which is a smoke. It's what do they say? Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've created something for the other person and now realize, oh, and it always brings me back to Waiting to Exhale when Angela Bassett throws all the clothes in the car
Yeah.
and burns the car,
Exactly.
you know.
Uh-huh.
But at the end of the day, was she really done with this guy or not? I mean,
Can I tell you?
yeah.
Exactly. So we have to look at those things. When I always look at the women who gets into this fit of anger and throws things out and in the heat of the moment, I look at them and say, oh, he's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming back. There's no question about it. You have not fully processed. You have not fully processed everything just yet. But you see, when you take your time and you organize his things and you put them somewhere and you package them very neatly, you are done.
Yeah.
You are done. The very act of that, the very act of going through that process, that is closure.
Yeah.
That in itself is closure. So, gentlemen, please, when you see your woman, fold you sitting them
Mm-hmm.
and put them in a corner,
In the box to the left.
to the box, to the left, to the left, to the left. She done. I done. She done this. So,
Mm-hmm.
what if she fling out this something them in anger?
Mm-hmm.
You have an in. You have
Now,
an in.
Now I'm going to throw another curveball at you, which is that, you move on.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that you can never revisit the relationship? Is it
You know
done
what?
completely?
It depends on the person. It varies with each person, and it varies with what they are willing to tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
And I always believe that if once somebody shows you who they are the first time, believe them.
Mm-hmm.
So um I know I'm not the person to take back certain things once people are out of my life. But I know other people will,
Mm-hmm.
because you know what, people definitely can change with proper attitudes and proper thinking. But at the same time, there will always be that lingering question in the back of your mind, like, is this person for real? Is this person really coming around because of XYZ? What is this person's motives? What do I suddenly have all of a sudden that makes this person want to come back around into my orbit?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it varies with each person, and it varies with quite very much varies with what each person is willing to tolerate and not tolerate.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think that the one thing that I would caution for our listeners is that people can transform,
Yeah.
as you said, and I think that's the important thing to understand is it's not change, it's transformation.
Yeah.
A leopard doesn't change its spots.
Very true.
Okay. But
you can transform. You can transform.
You can transform. A leopard can change its environment. It can't change its spots, but it can change its environment.
Its environment, exactly.
Change your environment, you can learn, and you can become a more valuable and more well-rounded creature, and contribute more on this earth. So we're all capable of learning to become more and become different. But you have to define for yourself whether or not, that person with this transformation is bringing the values and the characteristics that you're looking for. Because again, we understand that people meet at different times in your lives, and the biblical saying of there's reasons, seasons, and lifetimes for people to come into your life. So part of that is that they may not necessarily have, a purpose in your life. And that, I think, is what you have to identify for yourself. So in other words, the time to move on means that, that person may leave your life for a while. They may come back based on what their purpose in your life was. But, it's okay if they don't ever come back in your life, because the truth is that if they were never really contributing anything in the first place, other than to make you feel good or to, provide some type of experience that you were looking to have, and that was it, then you have to be grateful for, what they were there for. But you also have to look at your life and the bigger picture of your life and what's the purpose of your life and how other people fit into it. So
exactly.
So the curveball that I want to throw, really throw at you and ask you is that, why don't we think about this when we go into relationships, in the fact that they may not be permanent and there may be a time to move on, and we should be having this hard conversation with each other in the relationship and be more healthy about how we part ways, understanding the value of each person and why they were there in the first place.
Because you know what happened? A lot of people are very, very much obsessed with the ideal, the ideal of meeting that one person, and everything is just supposed to be perfect, that one person. And of course, everybody wants the the progressive relationship or whatever the case may be, but they want it with that one person. But the thing about it is, at the end of the day, life doesn't work like that. Reason People come into your life for a reason. Either they come into your life for a reason, they either come into your life for a season, or they come into your life for a lifetime. So you are going to, along the way, you're going to have people who are going to be in your life to teach you a lesson. And that is the universe's way of imparting lessons to you so you can be a lot more well-rounded human being. That is for a reason. Season, same thing, but it's more along the lines of long-term lessons, like learning more about yourself and learning more about who you are on the inside and who you are as a being on this earth. Mm-hmm. That's the seasons. Lifetime, somebody is there to help you transform yourself every second of the way. You know what I mean? So those are the things that
and also I would say that as you go through transformations, they're always there.
Yes,
they may not be there on a daily basis, but when you have these transformations, you can always reach out to them, and they will be there to support you. Yeah,
those are the constants. Those are the foundation people. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who are going to be around hell or high water a lifetime. The rest of them, they're really going to be around for a reason. They're going to be around for a season, and those are the things I really wish that people would ask when they meet people. Do you want to be in my life for a reason? Are you going to be my life for a season? Or are you going to be around my life for a lifetime? Mm-hmm. Let me know so I can conduct myself.
Involve myself the proper way. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the final question for you, for our listeners, is really, the way you talk about it is really understanding love from this point of growth. And mm-hmm. Is it possible to love somebody for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, or is it just only a lifetime that we give love to?
No, love is love. Love is love. And you love and you appreciate the person while they're around you for the time that they are around you, and you take the lessons and you learn those lessons. Make sure you learn them, and when the time comes for you to move on, there is a line in the movie Eat, Pray, Love with Julia Roberts when she's on that rooftop and she's meditating and she's thinking to herself, and there is this scene with her and her ex-husband, and they dance to their real wedding song, and he says to her, "I still miss you, I still love you." And she said, "So love me, and so love me, and so miss me. Send me light and love whenever you think of me. Then drop it." And it doesn't last forever. Nothing does. And that is really, really true. And that I'm actually getting goosebumps right now. That is really true. Yeah. Also, when you have those people in your life, you appreciate them for the time that they are around you. And when it's time, it is time, and just thank them for the lessons that they have given you, so you can learn those lessons, and send love and light, because we're always trying to make sure that we are sending out positive energy to others. Then drop it.
So it's really time to move on when you actually come to that understanding that mm-hmm. you can love this person without being associated with them anymore. That you can, you can love them without.
You can love them. You can love people from afar.
Yeah.
You can still love people from afar. They don't have to be around you. You don't have to be around them all the time. But just because they were in your life and they served the purpose that they served while they were in your life, you still have to appreciate them, because if they weren't in your life when they were, you wouldn't have learned certain lessons. So you still have to show that sort of appreciation, even if it's from afar. Because trust me, that is how we evolve. That is how we transform ourselves as individuals, as human beings, as spiritual beings. When we have these people around and we learn those lessons from those people being around us, and then we are able to take those lessons into the next experience, so we know exactly what to look for, what not to look for, what to tolerate, what not to tolerate, right? And that is just another rung on the ladder into finding that lifetime.
Yeah. We have a lot of listeners out there right now that are probably going through a lot of pain with letting go. And what is the message that you want them to get from this particular episode to help them?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to let go. Don't be afraid to let go. And sometimes you will come to that point in your life where you have to just look at certain things. You have to look at the pink elephant in the room. The same way I'm looking at my couch in my living room. And if it needs to get thrown out, and if you need to throw things out, throw them out. Why? Because at the end of the day, you are looking out for you and your best interest, and you're trying to evolve as a human being. And when those things have served its purpose, thank those things, because it has served its purpose and it has made you the person who you are today, and let it out. And you know what happened? Once you let it out, you actually free up space. You clear space in your life, in your environment, in your personal space, in your spiritual space as well. You clear out that space for different things to come into your life, and even greater things to come into your life. So yes, it is now spring, so we have to do some spring cleaning. Yeah.
Is this also, I use the movie Waiting to Exhale, but is this also the exhale? When you finally let go, you exhale, and that's really what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So for our listeners, any last words?
Take advantage of this. Take advantage of the springtime, spring cleaning. Sometimes we have to go through some spring cleaning and organize ourselves and
get rid of the cobwebs.
And get rid of the cobwebs and get rid of those unused receipts that we always thought that we would have used them for taxis, but we never did. Yes, I think we all have that spare that spare shoebox somewhere with all those receipts. That's and we think that, maybe I can use that next year for tax season. I don't know. Let me just keep this here. Maybe I'll need it later. And they realize they don't need it later. And they have all these like pieces of paper, pieces of junk.
Yep.
In your house somewhere. That man, clear it out. Clear it out. If you, my mother always said, if you are not going to use, if you didn't use it last year, if you didn't use it last year, clear it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you have it in your house and you haven't used it beyond a year, clear it out, and clear up space in your life, in your mind, in your spirit, in your soul, in your household, in your work environment, in your relationships, and clear that up for something new and great to come, because trust me, it's gonna come once you ask.
Mm-hmm.
I want you clear. I want you ask. I said to somebody, you have to tell the universe what you want and prepare yourself to receive it. And one of the ways you prepare yourself to receive it is to clear the space.
Mm-hmm.
Clear the space for it to come, because for you to have those things in your life, you have to make sure you have the space to accommodate it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. As always, I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. This has been another awesome episode with my lovely co-host, Ronique. And we wish you, as always, lots of love and light.
Lots of love and light.